All right, and I had asked you to do 3 problems from page 51.
Hey, oh, I did like try to do a whole page.
Right, x squared plus, so this is problem number 7, x squared plus 6x plus 5. Number 10 is 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. 3x squared plus 11x minus 4. All right, so this is on page 51, so have that page out, please. Whether you did it or not, we're just going to kind of start going through them, see how we do. Well, look at how clear that is. Wow.
That's better.
It's not dim. All right, you ready? These are all done by asking the exact same questions over and over and over again. Okay? It's a puzzle is all you're doing. Just a puzzle. Okay, so item 1. Is there a greatest common factor on all 3 terms? So do all 3 terms have something I can factor out other than 1? I have a 1, I have a 6, and I have a 5. 1, 6, 5, have any numbers I can do? Nope. Do all 3 terms have an x? No. So is there a greatest common factor? Sarah, if you want, you're more than welcome sitting in this seat up here. Yeah.
I hate sitting. You got your dent fixed.
Well, no, not really.
I actually hate sitting back.
All right. So we don't have a greatest common factors. Everybody clear about how this would have a greatest common factor, whether it doesn't? Is anyone still a little leery going, but I think they all have x's, or 2 of the 3 have x's. Well, if 2 of the 3 have x's, that's fine. All 3 need to have an x. And the greatest common factor, so if there was like, a number out in front of here other than 1, we'd have to check that. So we're done with the greatest common factor. There's not one. So then I'm going to go and find my magic number. So I'm going to multiply the very end times the very first. So there's a 1 out in front of that, right? So my magic number is 5 on this one. And in order to get 5, I need to go 1 times 5. There's no other way I can multiply 2 whole numbers together to get 5. Does that make sense? Okay? And being all my signs in there are plus, that means both of these have to be plus. Okay? Now, if I were to add 1x and 5x together, do I get that middle term?
Yeah.
Make sense? If I add 1x and 5x together, I get 6x. Agree? So this is going to match up nicely. So this comes down. And then it doesn't matter what order I put them in as long as I have the signs right. So plus 1x plus 5x plus 5. Now, what I want you to see is this. If you put these back together, do you get that? Okay, now here's the hard thing. Some of you might say, oh, it's always going to be 1 and 1 less than the number. Think about how many different ways you could get to 6 by adding 2 numbers together. You can go 1 and 5, 2 and 4, and 3 and 3, right? 4 and 2, sorry. Is that right? 2 and 4 I can't add together to get adding. Adding. Okay? So there's only one combination that's going to work with the factor with our magic number. All right, so now I have 4 terms. We don't need to fear this. What do I have in common between those? I have an x. If I factor an x out, I'm left with x plus 1. Now, let me pause for a second. Look why this works. If I redistribute this over, if I go x times x, do I get x squared?
Yes.
If I go x times 1, do I get 1x? So as you see how that worked? I just factored out that one little thing. All right, so then I'm going to look at these next 2. So this sign right here has to be the same. What do I have in common between these?
5.
A 5. If I factor 5 out of 5x, I'm left just with x. If I factor a 5 out of 5, I'm left with 1 as a placeholder. Now, if you take the blue and redistribute, 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 1 is 5. Okay? Again, we're working a puzzle every time. All this is just a puzzle. Between the blue and the black, what do I have in common? X plus 1. What do I have left to make my remaining binomial?
X plus 5.
X plus 5. It's done. It's factored. X plus 5 and then x plus 1? Perfect. Perfect all day long. Because multiplication doesn't matter if you go like 3 times 5 or 5 times 3. It's the same thing. Same idea with binomials. May I move to the next problem? Okay, and again, we're working a puzzle. We're asking the same questions every time. Okay? All right, so problem number 10. Do I have a greatest common factor? Do all 3 terms have an x? No. Of the numbers 2, -5, and -3, is there any number other than 1 that they have in common? No. So I don't have a greatest common factor here. Agree? Okay. Next thing, I need to find that magic number. So I'm going to take the very last. Watch the sign. What's the sign on this? Negative. So -3 times 2 is? -6. So my magic number is -6. Now what you have to think about is in order to multiply 2 numbers together to get a negative, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. Does that make sense? So I know we have in the back of our mind we're going to have plus negative. We have to figure out which combination. And all of the ways to multiply numbers together to get to 6, I know that 1 times 6 is 6. What else? What times what is also 6? 2 times 3. Now we just happen to have these factors. There's the other numbers that have more factors, and we'll get to those. Yeah.
Okay, wait. So on number 7, we did plus. So like 1 plus 5 equals.
Because
so
both of our signs were plus.
Oh, so then when they're both negative, you
Well,
multiply?
this right here starts dictating what happens. Okay? But you're also going to see sometimes this could be a plus and this could be a minus, which means my signs are still the same, both being minus, minus. Okay? But we're going to.
You're kind of. So which one are you determining?
So
Like, how do you,
this right here, if this is negative right here, you'll be plus, minus all day long. If it's positive, you could have plus, plus, or minus, minus. You just have to, then you would look to here. So if all 3, or if that was plus and that was plus, you'd have plus, plus. If that was minus and that was plus, you're going to have minus, minus. And if that is negative there, it doesn't matter what this is.
why don't they just do like, if that's plus, and then be plus, and then.
Well, we could make that those rules, but
Confusing.
So is everyone okay that we have this -6? In order to get to a -6, we have to have positive and negative? Okay, so now, knowing that my factors, one needs to be positive, one needs to be negative, which set of factors work when I add them back together, then I get -5? One's positive, one's negative, though. 1 and 6 has to work. This is the only combination that'll work where this is positive and this is negative. If you combine that back together, you get to -5. If both of these were negative, I agree with you. But we know we have alternating signs. Okay? All right, so now this 2x squared comes down here. Doesn't matter what order I put these in as long as I keep the sign right. So I can have plus 1x minus 6x, bless you, minus 3. Now let's double check this real quick. Does this make sense? If I were to combine 1x, positive 1x, and negative 6x back together, would I get to -5? It's going to check out for us. All right, so we have 4 terms, so let's look at our first 2. What do we have in common between those? I have an x. And then I get 2x plus 1. Is that all right? Now, this sign here is always here. So what do I have in common between these two? 3. Good. Okay, if I factor a -3 out of -6, I'm left with a +2. If If I factor a negative 3 out of a negative 3, I'm left with a positive 1. Now let's just pause there a minute. If I go negative 3 times 2x, do I get to negative 6? If I go negative 3 times 1, do I get to negative 3? Do I have the same binomial listed twice?
Yep.
Yeah. Extras? All right. So I have 2x plus 1 is one of my factors. What's the other binomial?
X minus 6.
Perfect. It's factored. If you had x minus 3 first and then 2x plus 1 second, you're also totally correct. How do we feel?
Good.
Doing okay? All right. Can I go to the last problem that I asked you to work on? All right, problem number 13. Item 1. Do I have a greatest common factor? Do all three terms have an x? No. Of 3, 11, and 4, other than 1, is there anything else I can factor out? No, so we don't have a greatest common factor. We'll get there, though. All right, what is my magic number got to be?
Negative 12.
Negative 12, good. It's always the last times the first. So negative 12. So in order to multiply two numbers together to get a negative, are they both positive, they both negative, or is it one of each?
One.
One of each. So we have to know that we have positive and negative. Okay, so the factors of 12 are 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. There's only one combination of those that works, where one's positive and one's negative. When I add together, I get to positive 11. Which one works? I want to get to positive 11. Which one works?
Negative 1 times 12.
There you go. So the negative 1. Is the negative 1 a positive 12? If I add those together, do I get positive 11?
Yeah.
Add them together, I get to positive. Yep. That works. Okay, so this comes down. I get 3x squared. Doesn't matter what order I put these in, as long as I keep the sign right. So minus 1x plus 12x minus 4. We okay? And again, if I had flip-flopped these, as long as my signs are the same, it still would be the same answer. What do I have in common between these two? An x. So if I factor an x out of 3x squared, I'm left with 3x. If I factor an x out of negative 1x, I'm left with negative 1. This sign has to be the same. What do I have in common between these?
3.
3 doesn't go into 4, though.
Oh, 4.
4. And it's positive because that has to stay the same. So 4 times what number would give me 12x?
3.
3x. And then 4 times what number would get me negative 4?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. Do these match? Do my binomials match?
Yeah.
Yep. It's done. It's done. All right. So hold on to that sheet because it's not done yet. And before you hate me, listen to my instructions before you hate me. This is called an all-in-class quiz.
Really?
Hopefully everyone in here will get a 6 out of 6 on it, but it's based on the class. Okay, we're going to walk through every problem. You need to take any notes you need on it, and we're going to do it as a class. Yeah, go ahead. These are basically your notes for the day, but we're going to walk through each problem, make sure we can do it. Then, because you were here, you get 6 out of 6. If you weren't here, guess what? They get taken on their own.
Yay! Thank you for letting me.
Yeah, this time she transferred.
Oh, really?
Is it okay we have this light on over here, or do you guys want it off? Alright, I'll dump it. Oh, can't see! Alright. All class quiz. Okay, so we're going to get to problem number 1. You ready? Let's take a look at problem number 1. I have x squared plus 13x plus 36. Okay, what's the very first question I always ask?
Greatest common factor.
Greatest common factor. Talk to me about this. Is there one?
No.
No. Does everyone understand why there is not a greatest common factor?
Yes.
All three terms doesn't have an x. And of my terms, I have 1, 13, and 36. I can't factor anything out. Everyone's good? Yay? What is my magical number? 36. Why is it 36 though? 1 times 36.
36.
Do you need one? Do you mean to forget you? Thank you. Yeah, buddy. All right, so everyone feels good so far? All right, so let's talk about what we don't have the factors listed yet. But of the factors, can we make a claim if they're both positive, both negative, or one of each? Take a look.
Both positive.
I have one both positive. The second on that? Both positive? You got a second? Both positive, got a third. Does everyone see why? They have to be positive because all my signs in there are all positive. So there's not going to be any shakeup of the signs. So they're both going to be positive. So I have to list the factors of 36. So I know 1 times 36 is one factor. What else? What's another factor of 36? 6 times 6. What else is another factor?
4 times 9.
4 times 9. What's another factor?
9 times 4.
9 times 4, same thing. Yeah,
That's the same thing.
that's okay.
12 times
12, what?
12 times 3.
12 times
2 times 8.
12 times 3. And then 2 times 18. I think we have them all.
Yeah.
Okay? Hey, that's the important thing though. If you know, like if you have like a number like 48 or 64, there's like a ton of combinations that multiply together. And it'll start driving you nuts if you don't list them all, because you'll be like, man, what works? All right, so now, both have to be positive, we agree. I want them to add up to what number? 13. Okay, it's that middle term. So which of those works, both being positive, when I add them together, I get to positive 13? Yeah.
4 and 9.
4 and 9, absolutely. So 4 and 9 has to work. They both have to be positive, but that's the factors that work. Agree?
Yeah.
All right.
Wait,
What?
Wait, Mr.
You talk-
Wait, why did you choose 4 and 9 out of all of them?
Okay, because if I had positive 4 and positive 9 and I added them together, I'd get positive 13.
Oh.
Okay? That would have given me 37. That would have given me 12. That would have given me 15. That would have given me 20. Yeah.
Wait, so the only reason why like we're listing out the factors and doing 36 times x is because we're trying to get it to four numbers instead of 3.
All right. So what's always come straight down?
X squared.
X squared. That's going to come straight down. Okay? It doesn't matter what order I list these in. I could either have 4x and 9x, or I could have 9x and 4x. Doesn't matter, just as long as you keep the signs right. So I have plus 4x, plus 9x. What else always comes down?
Plus 36.
Yeah, the very last term comes straight down. Make sure you keep your signs. A lot of you, I know when you do this, you stop putting the addition and subtraction signs. You just start listing numbers. Make sure you're bonding things together with addition and subtraction. So now I have 4 terms. Does everyone agree that if I add these together, what does this give me? 13x. Okay, that has to happen. What am I going to do next? Okay, so I'm going to underline here. What do I have? What do I know? X. If I factor an x out, what do I have left? Plus 4. Do you agree? So x times x, x squared, x times 4, 4x. We good? What do we know about that second sign always? It's always going to come down and be the same. So this is going to come straight down right here. Okay? Now, what do I have in common between these?
9.
A 9. 3 you're right with, but you have to look for your greatest common factor. So this case will be a 9. Okay, if I factor a 9 out of 9x, what do I have left? X and then plus 4 because... Now let's just go back and look. 9 times x give me 9x. Does 9 times 4 give me 36? Okay? Almost done. What do we have to make sure happens?
Bring them down to x plus 4 then.
Yeah, because you recognize that x plus 4 happened twice, right? So if I have x plus 4, what's my other factor got to be?
X plus 9.
There you go. Okay, yeah.
What happens if they're both not x plus 4? Or
Then it would not have been factorable.
Okay. Are we gonna have problems like that?
You will get there when they won't be factorable. Not yet, but you will. All right. Is there anything about problem number 1 that you need more clarification on? Yeah.
Can you repeat why it's like from 9x plus 4, why is it an x plus 9 and not anything else?
Why do I get an x plus 9 at the end?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you see how this binomial and this one are the same?
Yeah.
So what happens is we go from 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4, to 2 terms. And of those 2 terms, the red and the green, I have an x plus 4 as a greatest common factor, so it's coming out front. And then whatever I have left, the x and the 9, go back together to be your last binomial. Yeah.
Say that now we put the 4 times the 9. Oh yeah, it'll still be the same.
Yep.
Because I was thinking if it would be x plus 9.
If you had x plus 9x plus 4x plus 36, same exact answer. That's the beauty behind it. It will always work, okay, if it's factorable. Can we move off problem number 1?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you earned 1 point out of 6 so far?
Yeah.
Is anyone like, dude, I think we only earned like 0.1? Dogpile, if that person said. No, I'm just kidding. Problem number 2. Problem number 2.
Actually, it's not 6 out of 6. It'd be 18 out of 8.
I know, but if you did it on your own, I was going to make it out of 18, but because we're doing it all together.
Can we do it on our own?
Make it out of 12. We'll meet in the middle.
Meet in the middle.
Yeah, meet in the middle. Make it out
I
of
like
12.
your collective bargaining. All right, item 1. You eventually will start doing these on your own, but greatest common factor, is there one?
No.
No.
Nope, they all don't have an x, and I have a 1, a 12, and a 35. I can't factor anything out. Agree?
Yeah.
We good?
Yeah.
All right. Magic number is what?
7 times 5.
36.
35.
35.
35, because I multiplied the last times the first, and the first happens to be a 1, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, now, we have to agree on what the signs will be. I have a positive 35, agreed? So that would have to be positive times positive to get to a positive number, agreed? But there's a negative 12 right there, so what do you think the other option should be?
Plus negative.
Plus negative, if I multiply plus negative together, I will get a negative answer. That would be a negative 35. But if they're both negative, negative times negative is positive. So, does everyone agree that if I have negative and negative, I would get to a positive 35 still?
Yeah.
But this right here is dictating something different.
You have to have.
You have to have both negative, negative on this one. Because I'm multiplying 2 numbers together to get to positive 35. In order to get to a positive, it has to be a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative.
But a positive plus a positive, like a negative plus a negative.
Oh, I understand. You're absolutely right. But I'm asking on the multiplication part. Multiplication is what's guiding us on it. All right. Factors of 35. I'll list the first one. 1 times 35. Anything else? How much? 5 and 7. Any others?
And 30.
15 and 3 is 45. I think we have them all. All right.
Wouldn't there be like 3 times like 12 or something? Or like like 3
Nope.
times like.
That's it. We're done. All right. So if I add negative 1 and negative 35 together, I get to negative 36. Is that what we're trying to get to? No. What about this? If I add those together, what do I get to? Negative 12. You feel okay? Anyone stuck on that? So this is that. It doesn't matter what order I put them in as long as I keep the sign appropriate. What comes down every time? X squared, the lead coefficient. What comes next? Minus 5x. What comes next? Negative 7x. Could I have these flip-flopped?
Yeah.
Yes. What else always comes down?
35.
Yeah, the very last term always comes down. Keep the signs. Make sure you keep your signs in there always. Quick question. If I were to combine negative 5x and negative 7x, do I get back to negative 12x? Yeah, so it's working. So we have 4 terms now, yes? What should I do? What should I do?
Factor it out.
Yeah, I'm going to underline the first 2. What do I have as the greatest common factor on the first 2? X, everyone agree? What do I have left if I factor an x out of those 2? X minus 5. Excellent. What does this sign always have to do? It has to come down. Okay? What do I have in common between these? 7. Am I factoring a positive 7 or a negative 7 out of both? Negative 7. If I factor a negative 7 out of negative 7x, what do I have left? X. If I factor a negative 7 out of positive 35, what do I have left? Negative 5. Agreed? If I go back through, negative 7 times x, negative 7x, yes? And negative 7 times negative 5, positive 35, right? X minus 5, x minus 7. Exactly right. And if you had x minus 7, x minus 5, you're totally right too. That's it. Is there anything about this second problem that you're concerned about? Anyone stuck? Cool. Are we earning a 2 out of 6 so far?
Yeah.
4 out of 12.
4 out of 12? Okay. Keep telling yourself that. Maybe I'll change stuff.
I'm just kidding.
I know. Can I go to number 3? Number 3, okay? All right. Problem number 3. I get 4x squared. 4x squared plus 4x minus 15. First question. Do we have a greatest common factor? All the terms have an x. No. Can I factor anything out that's a factor of 4 and 15? No. So is there a greatest common factor? No. Okay, so we took care of that. All right. What is my magical number got to be?
Negative 40.
Negative what? Negative 60. Good. All right, now, the quick question. My quick question. So my number is negative 60. How do I get to a negative number by multiplication? A negative and a positive. So I have to have alternating signs. I don't know the order yet, but I know they have to be alternating, right?
Yep.
All right, so 1 in 60 is a factor. What else? Give me the pairs. 5 times 12.
6 times 2.
6 times 10.
2 times 30.
2 times 30.
5 times.
We got 5 times 12.
Oh.
4 times 15. You might have missed that one. Do I have them all, I think? Okay. So one of them needs to be positive, one of them needs to be negative, and we have to add up to what? 4. Yeah.
It would be 6 times 10.
6 and 10?
Yeah.
Okay, 6 and 10, I like it. Which one has to be positive?
6.
I need to get to a positive 4, so what has to be positive? The 10. Positive 10, negative 6. If you flip-flop it, you would have gotten a negative 4. 20 times what?
3.
Oh, 20 times 3? We could do it. It was just one factor we did less, but it wouldn't have been the answer, but good deal. Thanks for getting it. I forgot too, thank you. All right, do we all agree that if I were to take negative 6 and add it to positive 10, I come up with 4? So will my middle number work? What's next? What comes down?
4x.
4x squared. What comes next?
Minus 6
Minus 6.
plus 10.
Minus 6.
X.
X
X.
plus
10x.
10x. What else comes down?
Minus 15.
Minus 15. Okay? Does that look okay?
Yep.
4 terms up there, yes? Okay, so we're going to look at the first 2 terms, see what we have in common between those. What do I have in common between those? X. What else?
2.
The 2 and an x. Everyone agree? If I factor 2x out of 4x squared, what do I have left?
2 squared minus 3.
is 2x times 2x, 4x squared.
Yes.
Oh,
And then what's the minus? I agree. Minus
minus
3.
3.
Okay. Is 2x times minus 3 negative 6x.
Yes.
Perfect. What do we know about this second sign? It always has to come down. What do I have in common between these two? 5. Good. If I factor 5 out of 10x, what do I have left? 2x. What else?
Minus 3.
Minus 3. There you go. Do I have two binomials that match?
Yeah.
Hey, what's my answer?
2x.
2x minus 3 and? 2x plus 5. There you go. That's it. You know what the tough thing on these problems are? Some of you want to try and do it in your head. And I got to tell you, I love you for trying to do it in your head, but if you write down the steps, it's going to be a lot easier movement for you. Okay? Do we get half these right so far?
Yeah.
All right, may I move to problem number 4? We good? No questions here? Are we good? I see a couple of you still have the phone out, and that's kind of rude. All right. We ready to rock and roll?
Yes.
Okay. First question is greatest common factor. Do we have a greatest common factor up here? No. They all three don't have an X, or they all don't have a number that I can pull out. Okay? What is my magical number? Negative 14, right?
It's negative. It's 14 plus 1.
No,
No, it's not.
times.
Oh, it's on.
First times last, or last times first. All right? Hey, if it's a negative 14, what do I know? I have to have plus minus, yes. So I got 1 and 14, and
2 and 7.
2 and 7. I think that's all the factors. Of those factors, which one has to be positive, which one has to be negative to get to the negative 5?
Positive 7, negative. Wait.
Negative
all
1,
the way around.
negative. Or negative 1, positive. No, negative 4.
Negative 2 plus 7.
What?
Sir, what are you doing?
Negative 2 plus 7 is positive 5.
So it's positive 2, negative 7.
Oh, wait, never mind. I wrote 4.
Right?
My bad.
We
That's
agree?
my bad.
That work? That gets me to negative 5, yes?
Yeah.
All right, what always comes down?
X squared.
Comes straight down, yes? All right, what comes next?
Plus 2x.
Plus 2x. Could I have minus 7x first?
Yeah.
Yes, I could. I just have to start someplace. What's next if I had 2x first? Minus 7x. Keep those signs going. What comes down last? Minus 14. Awesome. Good?
Yep.
4 terms?
Yep.
4 terms. I like it. All right. What do I have in common here?
X.
X. What's left if I factor an x out?
No. X.
X plus 2. Cool. This sign has to come down, yes? So I'm actually factoring out a negative on this one. What do I have in common between these? 7. So I factor a negative 7 out. What do I have left? Do I factor a negative 7 out of that?
X plus 2.
X. If I factor a negative 7 out of negative 14, what do I have left?
2.
Plus 2. Everyone agree that negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times 2 is negative 14.
Yes.
Do I have the same binomials?
Yes.
What's my answer?
X plus 2 and X minus 7.
X plus 2 and x minus 7. Done. That's it. Have we done enough to earn 4 out of 6 points?
Yeah.
Well, I still got some time left, yes?
Yeah.
I think we might be able to get this quiz done.
You got 10 minutes.
All right, I think we can get there. All right, can I go to number 5, please? Was there a quick question? No? We good? All right, number 5. Anyone notice anything kind of silly on number 5?
0x.
Yeah, I got a 0 in there.
I mean, everything's the same.
Everything is the same, except I got that being 0. Ooh, okay.
Could you just like remove that?
We could. Let's not do that yet, but I like your thinking. We're going to get to that eventually.
How are you going to find, like,
I don't know. Let's see. Greatest common factor, yes?
Yeah.
because it could be like 8 times, wait,
What?
8 times 8 is 64, and if they're both, if one's positive and one's
And then 8 minus 8 is
they
Yeah!
cancel out.
Yeah, that's it. So our magic number is indeed negative 64. Everyone agree?
Yeah.
So in order to get to a negative, I have to have alternating signs. Agree? And the factors of 64 are 1 and 64, 2 and 32.
8 times 8.
32, 8 times 8, 4 and 16. So which of those works when one's positive and one's negative, then I add them together, then I get 0.
8 times 8.
8. One has to be positive, one has to be negative. Doesn't matter which one, because 8 added to negative 8, it gives me 0. All right, ready? Let's bring this down. Plus 8x minus 8x minus 64. Agree? Does that make sense?
And then, does it cancel or no?
What do I have here?
I just have trouble doing like these bracket things, like factors.
Okay, what do I have in common?
X.
That comes straight down, yes? What comes out?
It would be X plus 8.
What's my answer?
X plus 8, X minus 8.
X plus 8, x minus 8. X plus 8 and x minus 8. So here's a quick question. Do those appear to be kind of the same binomials?
Yes.
They're separated by one different sign, agreed?
Yeah.
One's positive, one's negative. Look what happened there. You have the exact same binomial separated by one sign. That means that middle term is going to become 0, at least here. This actually falls into something called the difference of two squares, which we talked about a little bit last week or the week before, but we'll focus more on that. So notice I have, these are other terms that are used, sometimes these are called conjugates of each other. The middle term falls out when you double multiply. Okay? Yo.
So I got mine just the greatest common factor is the first one and the last one. Multiply
Yeah,
it or
multiply the very last term times the very first term. In this case, that first term is 1. All right.
Wait, so could they like cancel out now and just make it like the whole problem is 0?
No, well, no, because those are the two binomials that work
Oh.
to make that happen. If you were to double multiply this, if you were to go x times x, you get x squared. X times negative 8, negative 8x.
Oh.
8 times that is positive 8x, and then positive 8 times negative 8 is negative 64.
Okay.
So, do we have a 5 out of 6 so far?
Yep.
All right. This one has a curveball. Why am I saying that? Is that a minus 30?
Yeah.
not like the greatest common factor is -3.
Greatest common factor. Do all the terms have an x in common?
Oh boy.
No. Do all the terms have a 10 in common?
Oh, yeah.
Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We have a greatest common factor. Our greatest common factor is a 10. So we get to this now.
Wait, how is our greatest?
Huh?
So look, if I were to go 10 times x squared, do I get 10x squared?
Yeah.
If I go 10 times 2x, do I get to 20x?
Oh,
If I go 10 times negative 3, do I get to negative 30?
Oh my god.
So I have a greatest common factor. So ready? See this number right here? Right here?
Yep.
That's called the greatest common factor. It's going to come all the way down to the very end. So that 10 comes down to the very end. We're going to forget about it, though, in a little bit. We've already dropped it to the very end. It's going to be part of the answer. We don't need to worry about the rest of it. So now, I'm just going to go ahead and factor this. Now, this is just like a normal problem. We took care of my greatest common factor. It came down to the end. It's the little brother we forgot about at the mall. Okay? But he happened to be back at the car when we got to the car going, oh, thank God. You with me on this one?
Yeah.
That becomes that situation where it's like, oh, I forgot your brother came with us. Yeah, he's back at the car, thank God. My mom would have killed me. All right. So, now it's the exact same thing. We took care of the greatest common factor. What's my fancy number? -3, right? So the factors of 3 are 1 times 3. Agree? There's nothing else. Which one has, what do we know about the signs?
Positive 3, negative 1.
Ooh, positive 3, negative 1, so they have to be alternating signs. We agree? All right, let's see if we can work this out. This comes down, x squared, right? Minus 1x plus 3x minus 3. Yes?
Yeah.
What do I have in common here?
X.
X. So that gives me x minus 1.
Also missing.
Plus, hang on, what do we have here? 3x minus 1. So remember that little brother we forgot about? It's part of the answer. X minus 1, x plus 3. This entire thing is the answer. We had a greatest common factor. It came down. We remembered it at the beginning. We brought it down to the end. We found it at the end of the game. B, you had a question.
Yeah, I do love that. So if it's how is 20x minus 30, you could just take out the 0 like it's as if it's.
Yeah, we just factored 10 out. It was the greatest common factor. That one had a greatest common factor.
We have homework.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I need this to be complete, please. All of page 51 and 52. I need that complete.
What do we do with the test?
It's going in the grade book right now for you. I'd keep it as your notes. Got it?
Yep.
So all of 51 and 52 needs to be done. We did 7, 10, and 13 as a class, but I want you to get it done. Guys and girls, if you continue to work through these, you will get it, I promise you. Give me a few minutes and then check your grade on Power School. You